We've got the reason Kyler Murray regrets, reportedly, his social media purge, why the Arizona Cardinals need to stay the course as far as their time with a Kyler Murray extension, and why Steve Keim needs to take a page out of the Los Angeles Rams little book as far as how they approach the NFL draft. We're breaking it down. It's Bo Brock, it's Alex Clancy, it's Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Don't rise up, Red Sea. Just grab a nice, comfortable chair. We're going to be here for about 30 minutes breaking things down here on Locked on Cardinals. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. We're free and available across all platforms. You don't have to pay a dime. Nothing. No paywall, no nothing. You can just get us when you want us for free. Couple ad reads from some tremendous sponsors. Other than that, you get what you get with Alex and myself. YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Over 2,000, almost at 2,100 subscribers. Thank you to each and every single one of you that subscribes. If you haven't done so, what the hell are you doing? Do you watch us? Do you consume our content? Subscribe. Throw us a freaking bone, man.
It's what my one of my favorite coaches growing up, my 7th and 8th grade coach, basketball, would say to us. He's like, "Hey, don't be stupid." That's pretty much like, I can't say that because that's mean, but it resonated with me, so maybe I'll try it.
Yeah, always good to call the viewers and listeners stupid out there right out of the gates. But hey, we're things have gotten wacky already. I mean, we're officially not even a week into the off season after the Super Bowl has been played. The champion Los Angeles Rams, they just celebrated the other day. Some interesting video coming away from their parade. Looks like Aaron Donald, unfortunately, is coming back. That's a big, brutal blow to the Arizona Cardinals because AD is probably, like, when you think about it, especially like the most recent iteration of the Arizona Cardinals, like Aaron Donald is their number one villain. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. Because he's been around the longest. I mean, Jalen Ramsey might have something to say about it, but Aaron Donald, even though he just disappears sometimes in the middle of games, like during the biggest times, he's always there in the backfield. Yeah, and he's Kyler Murray's worst nightmare.
He is. I mean, he's the main reason, especially the way that Cliff Kingsbury's offense kind of goes and the interior pressure that they get and how big of a game wrecker he can be specifically against the Arizona Cardinals. Aaron Donald has just destroyed Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, and they're still going to have to figure out a solution for big number 99 and now the title holders in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals have to face him at least twice each and every season. God forbid they have to face him a third time like they did this year. Kyler Murray, this is according to their flagship station, the Cardinals radio station, that Kyler Murray regrets his social media purge. And this is kind of, this is unfortunate. And here's why, Alex, because Kyler Murray is with, obviously what you believe in the report. If he does regret this, one, there was intent. And then two, I feel like he regrets this because of the backlash that he received post social media purge.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is like, and growing up, and I'm still going to continue to say that 24 is still growing up, especially when you're in the limelight and you're in the spotlight of the biggest professional sport, at least in the United States. Sometimes you do knee-jerk things, and then you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. But then it's like, if you're a normal person like you and me, it's like you text somebody, be like, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I jumped ahead. I blurted out mean things instead of thinking about it before I said whatever, like normal people do. When you do what he did, it's kind of like, man, I kind of hope this goes away so we don't have to, like, that's kind of the thing. It's like the news cycle is 24 hours, but it's so quick with some things, like how the Cardinals dealt with it after and all the speculation and the divisive nature of the Arizona Cardinals fan base, whether it's the front office or Kyler Murray, who's more to blame. It kind of festered a little bit more to where the I hope it goes away tactic didn't work. And that's kind of where we are, where it's kind of now we kind of have to say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. Probably shouldn't have. It's not the first time a human being's made a mistake.
I mean, he's probably had, relative to his career, his life, one of his toughest months he's ever faced. Look, that's not bad. I mean, compared to real problems, you know, that's nothing. But when we look at Kyler Murray and how he grew up and how he's probably the best player on the field, regardless of his stature, he hasn't faced that much adversity. I am kind of in the belief that this is good for Kyler Murray. You know, it sucks to get your brains bashed in on a national stage. It sucks that, the maneuver that you pulled to try to leverage the biggest extension you could possibly get and your pushback to how people responded was negative. But him being probably the most Gen Z quarterback we've ever seen in the league's history, that social media pushback might be the best way to get to the quarterback, get to Kyler Murray and make him say, hey, like, even though I was the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year and I've been to the Pro Bowl twice, I still have a lot of room to grow. And if the reports are true about what was asked of him in the exit meeting to mature, to become a leader, maybe this is kind of resonating a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's interesting, and it's with all of the things that have happened in the downfall of the last 2 seasons, he's only played in one playoff game and he played terribly. That's not an original story either. Okay. So, yes, we've seen these things grow naturally. Okay. It's not a Patrick Mahomes. It's not a Lamar Jackson. It's not even a Joe Burrow who made the Super Bowl in his second year after tearing his ACL the year before. This is the more of a natural progression of things where you're terrible, you get better, then you make the playoffs. Okay. Him making this mistake, as you mentioned, yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, because this is kind of his language, as it were, and we're gonna find out next season how it affects him.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know. Like, you and I talk a lot about Kyler Murray when we're not, doing the podcast, and it's like, should we be a little bit harsher on him back and forth? And we're like, this is how it's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to be a piece of clay that you're molding into an adult while becoming an exemplary football player.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mental, it's physical, it's everything. So this could just be part of the transitionary phase of leader instead of best player on the field that happens to be the quarterback. Like, but we're going to find out. Like, this book is not close to, like, this is the prologue of the Kyler Murray novel in the NFL. Chapter 1 probably starts next season.
Right. And I mean, he's got a lot to prove. And, the Arizona Cardinals could, continue to hold as far as this extension discussion goes. I mean, and I'll keep pointing to the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, who had way more success early on, at least, team-wise. The team goes 14-2. Personally, he wins, not the Rookie of the Year, but he wins the MVP, offensive MVP in the league. It's going to be important for Kyler Murray to continue his growth, because there's already questions surrounding him. And you can make your case. It's just like Cliff Kingsbury, right? I can in the court of law, the court case for Cliff Kingsbury, should he remain the Arizona Cardinals head coach, the evidence, you've got a lot that could sway to people saying yes and people definitively saying yes for Kyler Murray. But that there's also evidence there that could be damning on the other side of things.
Yeah, but the difference is there is beyond a reasonable doubt, or they're not beyond a reasonable doubt, that he deserves to be the head coach. Like, there's still doubt around that. Sure. Kyler Murray was the number 1 overall pick. Kyler Murray was the Heisman winner. He deserves to be the starter for an NFL team. Cliff Kingsbury doesn't necessarily, given his pedigree before signing ink to paper on that contract. That's the difference. Yeah. But sure, listen, if they win 12 games next year and win a playoff game, I'll eat my shorts.
I don't know. But what if it looks kind of similar? What if it's like they win 12
if it
games?
Happens again?
What if they win, 12 of their first 14 and then fall off a cliff, for lack of a better phrase?
Get them out
again. I mean,
it's like you can bring in.
I mean, it's very. I mean, context matters with this. For sure, especially when you're looking, especially like at Kyler Murray's career, Cliff Kingsbury's tenure, the Arizona Cardinals as an organization. This 11 wins looks a lot different than the 11 wins that I think the fan base signed up for before the season began. Like if you told them 11 wins, I mean, we've said this before. Absolutely. Everybody would have signed up. 99 out of 100 fans would have signed out with one person probably holding steady. I'm like, well, let's see how it looks. I mean, context matters as far as how it starts, how it ends, especially how it ends, and what's the narrative surrounding this organization that they can't finish. That the trio. I mean, this is it. I mean, the trio of Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury, and Kyler Murray. Like none of them right now are are getting in their bed and just turning out the lights and sleeping comfortably right now.
Steve Keim might be. Who knows what the hell he is?
Yeah.
I mean,
he has
and not being able to finish is
is.
like a compliment. They weren't able. One thing that is true, and I've talked about it, we'll kind of put it to rest, but we're still kind of having the lingering effects of the 2021 season is Cliff Kingsbury could not coach a team to clinch a playoff spot after starting 10-2. That is a true statement. Okay. He is unable. They could have won in Detroit. There's teams they could have beat and they didn't. And that's the biggest, I don't know, scarlet letter for him in my eyes is like, talent will get you wins in the NFL. When you need a win, that's coaching. That's scheme. That's play calling. That's things like that. So that's kind of where my jury's still out, going back to the metaphor.
And I think next week
analogy.
we need to get into, best wins, worst losses of the season, kind of hand out our superlatives. We'll get into that next week because we're really just getting started as far as Locked On Cardinals. Our offseason coverage begins. We'll start to look at, cap casualties, restructures, everything that you love about the NFL offseason. We'll get into trade option for the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get into that. And football season, it might be over. It might be over and we're all downtrodden and sullen. We're trying to get into the NBA and watch on a nightly basis, but it doesn't have the same pizzazz. But you can definitely spruce things up by getting action on NBA and college hoops. And the best place to do that, betonline.net. That's where you want to go because that's going to make everything better. From the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to the next fired coach, where he's going to land or she's going to land. BetOnline.net is your number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head over to the website today. Use your mobile device. Learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
It's Friday, baby.
Lovely. It is a Friday edition of Locked On Cardinals, part of your Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. And I want to get into this conversation about the Arizona Cardinals because our Thursday podcast was Extend Kyler Murray Now. And what's great about having a two-host show is you can have different opinions on this. And Alex is in the camp of they need to extend them now. We just need to get this behind them, and they need to get Kyler Murray locked in for the foreseeable future as far as going and pitching to free agents, them knowing potential free agents, knowing that Kyler Murray is locked in beyond, the 2022-2023 season would be a great bargaining chip. Now, I do want to bring to the table here that if the Arizona Cardinals, first off, I hope that they already know what their plan is. And I hope that, what goes on social media, what's being said right now doesn't make them try to change anything as far as their plan. If they have a plan and it works best for their organization, although I'm skeptical about the people making the decisions there and Steve Keim and Michael Bidwill, if they have a plan and it's going to work best to put this team in a position to improve from 2021 to 2022, then sure, move forward with that. But just like the cautionary tales of first round quarterbacks and the teams that decided with 2 years left to ink them to mega extensions, you can look at this in a couple ways. First off, none of the quarterbacks that signed mega million extensions did it before June. So it was kind of post free agency. So if you're wondering why don't they just do it now? There's no precedent for that, but there is a precedent as far as Josh Allen signed his in August. Patrick Mahomes happened in July. Goff and Watson were in September, and the earliest was Carson Wentz in June. Now, when you think about that, 2 of those guys, maybe half of that pack, you can deem a success. Mahomes, even though he kind of took a step back this season. Josh Allen, I think, was a tremendous success
Mhm.
signing his deal and the step he took even further, after last season, which he parlayed into his extension. But Goff and Wentz, they regressed after signing their deals. And then Watson's just a completely different case in itself as far as the money that he signed for and where he is right now. I think you can take him out of this conversation. So you've got 4 quarterbacks, and 2 of them are success, and 2 more are failures, right?
Yes.
So do you have any problem with the Arizona Cardinals plan is to go into March, sign bring back the guys that they need to bring back via free agent contracts, sign guys off the free agent off the market, and then come June or July before they head to training camp, they've got a nice, beautiful deal for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm good with that. I think, and obviously, there are people that know more about football than me regarding signing contracts and extensions and stuff. The main point that I was trying to make was if this instability festers, that is one way to sit in an office with Michael Bidwell, Steve Keim, and Kyler Murray and say, let's get this done. So this
Yeah.
is one thing we do not have to worry about. Talk is cheap. Ask all of the head coaches who get the vote of confidence from their front offices where they are. And it's not in the same spot that they were after they got that vote of confidence or before they got that vote of confidence. So I think that the unified front part is very important. Now, if this kind of subsides and there is a kumbaya moment publicly somewhere that everything kind of goes back to normal, you can push it a little bit, sure. But I
Mhm.
mean, I feel like, and as you mentioned, I think it's important for free agents to see that everybody's in the same ship. Everybody understands that Kyler Murray is going to be QB1 for the Cardinals in perpetuity.
Mhm.
That, hey, listen, I love to play with that guy. I'm going to go sign there this offseason. I feel like those 2 reasons are why I said extend them early. And you just figure out the cap.
There just needs to be constant communication between Keim, Bidwill, the decision makers for the Cardinals, that brain trust, Eric Burkhart, Kyler's agent, Kyler Murray himself. That look, hey, we're gonna, for cap reasons, whatever our reasons may be, uh, we're gonna come to like when we're gonna negotiate this thing when we want to get this thing done is this time, and then set a date for it. June, July, August, September, whatever it may be. But that's our intentions are we're going to lock you in. We're going to pay you just as we've paid our former stars before. Larry Fitzgerald, Patrick Peterson, the list is long. Tyrann Mathieu, to a fault, they dug themselves in too deep there. But they have a pretty long list that they can point to where they've paid their stars, and they've paid them at the top of their position in the NFL. But here's where I have the biggest problem, or where I'm kind of concerned. This organization, and this is also taking it at face value where there could be smoke screens, but this organization has proven with big decisions, they didn't have a plan. Like they didn't have a successor to the quarterback position after Carson Palmer retired. Like they had no plan. They went out on the first day of free agency and their solution was Sam Bradford. And once they realized Sam Bradford was indeed damaged goods, they traded up in the draft and they got Josh Rosen, who couldn't play at the NFL level. They the coach, as far as they didn't have any idea that Bruce Arians was going to move on or retire, and Steve Wilkes was the solution. And then after they said they were going to hold themselves accountable as far as the Wilkes hiring and get it right. And then the next move is Cliff Kingsbury, one of the most unprecedented rises to a head coaching position in NFL history, from failed college coach to NFL head coach. It's just to the past few drafts. Like, are you telling me, like the Kyler draft? If you take Steve Keim at his word, he didn't know he was going to draft Kyler Murray #1 until days or weeks before, that is absolutely unacceptable. And then the last couple of drafts, Isaiah Simmons and Zayvon Collins. Like, is as much as I still believe that those guys can be NFL caliber players. The big decisions that are being made with this organization, the team, like they're not planning for them. And that's a huge problem.
Yeah. These are all things where it's like, Man, we have this great, housing, this great architecture for this apartment complex that we're going to build.
Right.
Everything's perfect. Everything's up to date. Oh, but damn it, we're on the moon. Can't do it. Like these are things that we constantly talk about, and people give a lot of flack for negativity surrounding the front office. It's like these are great ideas. Executing them has proven to be an active futility over the last 8 or 10 years since Steve Keim has been GM. So you're right. I mean, planning's been tough. They signed Mike Glennon and Sam Bradford and then drafted Josh Rosen. So, I mean, with Josh Rosen, that was what? I think it was around $30 million for the quarterback position for three guys
Mhm.
who didn't deserve to be NFL quarterbacks
We weren't
in the
even on the
same
team.
year
Yeah,
on
the
the same
next year.
roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's wild. That's something that it's kind of like, well, we can talk about all the positive things that we can. Then once in a while, it's like, well, we'll see if it happens because the ineptitude is still pretty prevalent, still pretty potent. But you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like having a plan. It seems like, and I tweeted this out, and I think this is one of the better things that I've said is like Steve Keim is a procrastinator. He's a procrastinating student. Terrible at prep, terrible at studying until like 2 days before the test, and he's able to get a C or C minus to be able to pass and keep his job, which is where the trades and the late and the late free agent signings to build out a roster where if one thing bad happens, it falters, and that's what we saw again in 2021. I hope things change, but the definition of insanity is the Arizona Cardinals.
if the that's a good, you need to copyright that one. Steve Keim is not smart enough to take tests like that. Like we all knew people that could walk in day of the test without studying and ace it. He's not smart enough, and that's a big problem. I completely get your analogy. I think is spot on, but the problem is when it comes to sit down and take the test, he's not producing enough results that say, "Hey, yeah, you're good. Just yeah, go out and party on a school night. You're good. You'll figure it out." Because he's
Now,
not. He's
now,
producing barely passing grades.
now, let me ask
If
you this, and I
yeah,
know we're going long, and
yeah.
whatever. We'll take a break in a second. Do you think what I think Kyler Murray is going through without Cliff Kingsbury being, there for him leadership wise that I think he needs to be? Do you think same could be said for the Cliff and Steve Keim dynamic? Like we know a lot less about that because we don't see Steve Keim at all. I'm sure there's reports, whatever. He's not in the locker room. There aren't people with microphones that are very good at their job reporting things that they see around Steve Keim as much, aside from his, something good's about to happen, so I'll pop in front of a mic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder how much support Cliff Kingsbury's getting in his journey here also.
I think this organization, and I could be speaking out of school here. I think that this organization is you've got from the the front office to the coaching staff to the players. They're all they're isolated from each other, which doesn't work. Like I do think that. Like I think that Cliff Kingsbury provides more to Kyler Murray than Steve Keim provides to Cliff Kingsbury. When you look at what Cliff Kingsbury would ask for and what Steve Keim provides in draft picks and free agency, like I think back to the flight plan and I see how AJ Green was signed and his like Cliff Kingsbury is just passing by in the hallways and like talks to AJ Green like, hey, thanks for it's nice to have you aboard. Like not like he had any involvement in saying AJ Green would be a great, Z receiver for us. Like that's my guy. It's like Steve Keim said, "Hey, here's your other outside receiver. I got AJ Green for you." He's like, "Okay, cool. Probably not what I wanted, but okay, thanks. It's the gift you got for Christmas that you really didn't want, but you had to act like you did." I don't know. It's a mess, but let's fix the Steve Keim draft problem real quick. And I think there's an easy solution to it. There's a solution to if you've already bailed on your New Year's resolution, and it's a very delicious and it's a healthy, nutritious solution. It's Built Bar. Built Bar, the greatest gift from God ever given. Is that too much?
No.
It's unbelievable. I've got a brand new box of Built Bars upstairs. My wife will not know where they are because I'm hiding them from her. She doesn't appreciate Built Bar like I do, like Alex does, like the entire Lockdown Podcast Network does. Do you know why we appreciate them? Because they're 100% chocolate, delicious chocolate, and they've got all these incredible 9 flavors you can always hang your hat on, and they even have the puffs. If you haven't tried the puffs, they're
Mm.
incredible. Protein infused marshmallows. Like there's some brilliant scientist out there and he's like, let's put protein in a marshmallow. Somebody said, no, you can't do that. And he did. And thank God for it. And it's covered in 100% chocolate. Go to built.com and you can save yourself some cash. Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15, get 15% off your order. That's using the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. I think I undersold Built Bars just there. I think I undersold it. I didn't do them any service there. It's Bo Brock, Alex Clancy, final segment of the week. Monday, brand new mock draft Monday. But should we just rip up our assignments and throw them in the trash can? Because I think that the Los Angeles Rams, Alex, have created a blueprint for old underdrafter, perennial draft failure, Steve Keim to follow. The Rams traded Isaiah Wynn, Duke Dawson, Juan Thornhill, Clavon Chasen, Travis Etienne, 2022 and 2023 first rounders, and a 2022 second rounder for the following players: Sammy Watkins, Marcus Peters, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Ramsey, Matt Stafford, and Von Miller.
Not bad there, Bob.
Yeah, the last three of them helped them to a Super Bowl title this year. Does Steve Keim need to abandon his current draft strategy and adopt Les Snead in the Los Angeles Rams draft philosophy, which I love that Snead was wearing the shirt that said F the picks, F those picks on the parade day. Does he need to do it? Is it a better strategy for Keim than, as he said, the definition of insanity is the Cardinals?
Yeah, Arizona Cardinals organization's definition of insanity. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. So, yeah, like here's the thing: is sure, if that's not what Steve Keim was doing the last 5 years, like the Rams were able to do that because they already had younger talent and positions in place. Like what they did with Robert Woods, pretty much paying him nothing compared to what he showed. Cooper Kupp, drafted. Best player in the NFL, some say, last year. Best performance of a wide receiver ever. Jerry Rice did all the things that Cooper Kupp did over his career, but last year Cooper Kupp did all Triple Crown, Super Bowl MVP, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, they were able to take chances elsewhere and trade draft picks because they were able to figure it out under the cap because they had young, inexpensive talent, or guys like Eric Weddle and Clay Matthews who were able to fill leadership roles towards the tail end of their career and not make as much money as they once did. Like that was set up plan-wise to be able to afford to do that. The Cardinals can't afford to trade their draft picks and then pay players a year later. So if you're going to trade for like a 1-year rental, was Zach Ertz worth a 5th-round pick for 1 year? Sure. But now what are you going to do? He's going to garner $7 or $8 million for 2 years somewhere else that the Cardinals can't pay him. So was it really worth it? Could you have drafted somebody? Sure. And they just punt on the draft because of Steve Keim's inability to put a plan together and execute it.
Well, yeah, the biggest problem is they then continue to add on. Like they clearly lacked depth, and where they had, the remaining assets during last season were in the 2022 draft. Like, yeah, they added Ertz. You shouldn't have been done then. There was still an opportunity to add a player in the secondary. Stephon Gilmore was acquired for a 6th-round pick. Now I know he missed time due to injury, but he was in there playing downs for the Carolina Panthers by the end of the season. I think that the Arizona Cardinals, if they're going to be aggressive, you can't be half into the pool. You have to jump in all the way. Like you have to do, like Steve Keim needs to take that big body of his and just swan dive into it. Right? I mean, that's what the LA Rams did. Les Snead literally said, F those picks. And if the Arizona Cardinals are going to do that, if you're going to go all in, the thing is, like, you can pay a quarterback. I mean, they're paying not only Matthew Stafford, they're paying Jared Goff part of his dead money. So they were able to maneuver that and pay a significant amount of money to the quarterback position and then still put together the roster that they did. Now, what they do this offseason is going to be important as far as how they run it back. But and also to Steve Keim's credit, he has been utilizing his draft picks and flipping them for proven commodities. He did it for DeAndre Hopkins. He did it for Rodney Hudson, and he did it for Zach Ertz. Mm-hmm. Does he do it? Does he need to do it more though? That's the question. Or does he just need to figure out his 1st-round draft strategy? For the first time in 9 seasons.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, yes. I mean, both, but it's got to be a balance. Like the San Francisco 49ers just find 6th-round picks. Their best running back was a 6th-round pick this year.
Yeah.
The 6th-round picks for the Arizona Cardinals, well, they traded one, right? And was Michael Dumakaji the other? I think he was the other.
Victor, yeah.
Victor Dumakaji, sorry. Michael Manette was the 7th-round pick. When you can't find players later in the draft to start, that's a problem because you have control over them. They make no money comparatively speaking, and they can fill rosters where you can add millions of dollars to trading for players or signing players in free agency. What Steve Keim did with DeAndre Hopkins was masterful, 100%. That was the fleece job of the 21st century regarding a trade in the NFL, 100%. David Johnson and a second for DeAndre Hopkins and a 4th, like unbelievable. They got a 4th-round pick for it. Yeah, so they traded a 4th, got a 4th. Like that was great. And he did nothing else. It was like that happened earlier in the offseason. It's like, oh, cool. So you're just going to tie him up, Stevie baby? Like, is that what we're going to get from you this offseason? And you're just going to excrement the bed during the draft? That's what we witnessed. So, like, yeah, I talk about Cliff Kingsbury for the Entourage fans putting together a great Medellin trailer, but the movie's garbage. Steve Keim does the same thing every offseason.
Yeah.
But Steve Keim has so much more control over the script, as it were, of a movie, and he chooses to draw multiple pages in crayon with his feet and then going back to the story right after. So, like,
it's really crazy where you look at the two teams in the Super Bowl and what could have been with the Arizona Cardinals, because as much as I'm stressing the Rams' philosophy because of his inability to find productive players in the draft or enough to make a difference, not to say that, Buda Baker's not been awesome and Kyler Murray was the right decision. But when you look at, sure, the Rams, they punted on draft picks to bring in proven commodities. When you look at the other side, to your point, Joe Burrow's offense, Tyler Boyd, 2nd-round pick, sign an extension, didn't break the bank there. T. Higgins, 2nd-round pick, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow on their rookie deals. Those guys are all making instant impacts and big impacts that were able to catapult the Bengals from a 4-win team to the Super Bowl. That's what happens when you draft well. And then you can just fill in the blank and fill in the gaps like he had to do, like the Bengals did last offseason by, we got a problem at corner. Okay, flood it with numbers. Go out and get Mike Hilton. Go out and get Eli Apple. So there's two different philosophies. Steve Keim, unfortunately, trying to ride the line in the middle. And it's like you got to go one or the other, and you have to be very successful in both areas.
Yeah. And who was Steve Keim's big get for the cornerback room last year? Malcolm Butler, like 2 minutes before the season started.
Yeah.
So they drafted
Butler, yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to see the actual day where they signed him.
Butler was in March. It wasn't short after. It wasn't shortly after they made the big move for Rodney Hudson. I remember talking about that. I think, and Butler was post P3, Petty Patrick Peterson moving on to Minnesota.
Oh, that's right. He retired at the end of August. That's right.
And the news from Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport, or the Cardinals have released Malcolm Butler from the reserve retired list. So we'll see what happens with him. Apparently, according to Rap Sheet, he's considering returning. So I don't know if the Arizona Cardinals retain his rights and he's just back on the roster or what, but it's something to kind of follow along with. Thank you so much for tuning in all week long. Our coverage of the soap opera that is the Arizona Cardinals and their quarterback, Kyler Murray. Hopefully we provided some clarity and some things to think about. Thank you for making us your first listen all week long. If you're just getting started here as far as our off-season podcasts go, we got some great draft coverage coming up. Our mock draft, it's coming on Monday. If you do your own mock draft, tweet it at us, at LockedOnAZCards, at Clancy's Corner, and at Bob Rack. Have a great rest of your weekend. No football this weekend. That was a very sobering thought that I had. No football.
Check out Locked On Suns. Brendan Clean's doing a great job. The Suns are the best team in basketball. Transition into that when you're not listening to us.
There you go. All right. Suns playing the longest active win streak in the NBA once again, owned by the Phoenix Suns. But we'll see how much time Chris Paul misses for. Is he going to be suspended? I don't know. Listen to Brendan Clean. He'll tell you. All right. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Hit us up on Twitter at Locked On AZ Cards.